and welcome to a live Kerfefe break on Deprogram with Keri Smith. I'm your host, Keri. If it's your first time here and you like the show, please hit like, share with your friends. If you're a returning viewer and you want to help support us, we do have a Patreon, Subscribe Star, and Locals. I almost said LinkedIn. That we don't have a LinkedIn, so don't go there. But welcome to this is a live show that we do Mondays and Fridays. I bring on guest hosts, friends of the show. And then we just talk kind of about what's in the news, what's on our mind. And sometimes Tiger's here like a little cat hanging out. He's here today. Last night, well, before I get into what we're going to discuss, 2 announcements. February 12th, my husband and I have added a second show. We're doing house concerts now, and we're sold out for February 11th. So we added a matinee on Sunday, February 12th. And he has booked several other musicians. There's going to be several fiddle players, pedal steel, viola, mandolin. He does piano and guitar. It's a very intimate style concert. And we have snacks and drinks, and it's just a lot of fun. If you would like to come on the 12th, we didn't realize it was Super Bowl Sunday. So if you also didn't know it was Super Bowl Sunday and don't care, then hit me up, deprogrampod@gmail.com, and I'll give you the ticket link. We don't post it publicly because we try and keep the crowd small, and also it's our house. So the other announcement is April 15th in the Austin area. I'm going to be hosting the New Minds event. It's a little different than the one they did in New York last year. This one in Austin, they're going to have panelists like Peter Boghossian, trying to think who else, Tim Cass, Ian Crossland, Destiny, Eliza Blue. And it's like I said, it's all happening on April 15th. They're also having music. Tim Cass is performing. They're going to have comedy. Jamie Kilstein is performing, and you can find out more info and get tickets at minds.com. I'm very excited about that. Those are my announcements. Please welcome my co-host today, Neil
Hello.
James. Hello. How are you,
doing?
sir?
I'm good. I was just sneakily trying to clean my glasses on my t-shirt because they're a bit greasy, and I just managed to get them back on in time.
I'm so happy you're with me today. I've
Thank you.
just hearing your voice makes me happy. Like I was saying before we started, your accent just tickles
I
me.
should charge you.
Yeah.
That'll be $10, please, just to hear my voice.
You're a mood lifter.
I
There's
don't know. Wait till I get talking later. I might bring everything
Oh
down.
yeah,
I do have a
well,
habit of that.
we seem to have a track record when you co-host with me of always getting just at least one very dark topic. So
Yeah, so let's see if we can do the same. We've got to keep that up now, haven't we?
Yeah. So tell people just where they can find you, a little bit about yourself if they're new to the channel and don't know who you are.
Okay, well, I'm a knitter, and I produce a knitting magazine called Blocked Magazine, and you can find that on, where can they find it? If they go to my Instagram, so at Blocked Mag, all one word. If you go to the link tree underneath, there it is, brilliant. Everything's under that, so all the issues of the magazine are in the link tree, as is the YouTube channel as well. So at the moment, I don't have a website yet, but I'm hoping to get one some point this year, and then it'll all be in one place. And what I do is we talk about knitting, and also we talk about the social justice drama that's going on in the knitting world, because for some reason it seems to be a magnified spot in the world, doesn't it, of weirdos. So I kind of call out some of the racism that goes on, and not the racism we're always accused of, the real racism that's going on, and also just some of the bad behavior, because it's bad. You know, we've talked about it so many times, but some of the things that these people do to people, it destroys lives. You know, we've seen it in every genre of this, haven't we? But for some reason, it just seems to be really prevalent. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing, basically. I'm Evil Santa as well. So now, as you can see, this is Santa's downtime. So, so now I can busily get on with this magazine until it gets to November, which is then I've got to start thinking about, making presents for people and things like that. And what else? Oh, I'm literally Nittler. I'm the stupidest man in existence. And there was a new one recently, and I've forgotten what it was. I told you last time, I think, but I can't remember.
And they say you have ugly cats.
Ugly cats, yes.
Literally, Nittler still is just hilarious. That they don't even realize how funny they are with these. They're trying to insult you, but it's like that's really ridiculously funny.
I did get a letter off somebody, a friend, by the way. It wasn't anyone bad, but it was a yarn dyer. Actually, I can probably say it was Tina from Owenid.
Oh, okay.
And the letter on the outside on the envelope, she'd written Sieg Pearl. So pearl is a stitch in knitting, and Sieg Heil.
Oh, I see. It took me a while to get there. Like,
yeah, I didn't want to. Said, "Oh my god, Nazis on programmed."
So silly. I like the moniker that the deprogrammed audience has given you. I think it was Adam. Socrates. Yeah. Socrates is very nice.
Well, so, I feel a bit. What's the word about this one? I mean, I like it. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like I don't claim to be intelligent or a philosopher or anything. So I kind of feel a bit. I don't know whether I should take that one on.
Oh, it's funny. You also don't claim to be the and what the literally Nittler is named after. So
I don't know.
Like
sometimes I can be.
You're a painter. I'm kidding. Okay, let me take this down. So last night, did you watch? I don't watch award shows. First of all, I really just don't enjoy them. I never really have. But I did watch clips of the Grammys. Did you see any of it?
I've not watched anything, but I've seen. I read the headlines in the paper, so I've seen some of the photographs and some of the drama surrounding it. And like you, I don't like award shows because I just feel it's a bit like giving a round of applause to people that have already won.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, you're already winning because you're a millionaire and you're, a musician or you're a film actor or whatever. You've won in life's lottery. So why are we giving you an award?
It's like they're celebrating themselves. That's what's like, come and celebrate us, like idols. I don't know. Plus I just find them pretty boring. But last night's, based on the clips I've seen and some of the photos coming out of the one last night, I think this one just is probably the most boring and the biggest poop parade ever at the Grammys. One of the things that everybody was talking about this morning that I saw was that Sam Smith, who says he's genderqueer, I believe he goes by they, them, which I think that's ridiculous. It's just pick he or she, like it's too complicated. So he did a satanic.
They did.
No, I can't.
No, I think we should try. I'm going to try. Let's see if we can do it.
They did.
I bet we can, but we'll try and do it just for the laugh of it.
I can't. You try though. We'll see how good you are doing.
Okay.
So he did this satanic performance where he dressed as Satan. The song was called Unholy, and it's just all these big-breasted looking demon ladies writhing around him and men writhing around him. It's all sexual, and there's like fire in the background. But truly, I watched this and I wasn't outraged. I wasn't shocked. It actually just kind of made me laugh because it's so bad. It's so boring.
Well, like, I was going to say that it's like almost every artist has done this whole Satan thing now, haven't they? They've all got horns on their head at some point.
Yes, and done it much better, I have to add. Like this he just he doesn't inspire like someone there's this one guy on my Facebook profile who often goes back and forth with me and likes to argue with me. He's an atheist and he can be sometimes argumentative, which is fine. And he was like, Keri, this isn't scary in the least. Da, 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 da. I'm like, I didn't say it was scary. I said, on the contrary, it's boring. like, let's just watch it. I may have influenced. If you guys haven't seen it yet, maybe I'll influence what you think about it. But just, what do you think of this? This is from the Post Millennial. They clipped it.
Okay.
So we can get back, but we don't know that he's getting up. Something unholy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. There's quite a lot to be said actually here. So let's put our SJW heads on for a second.
Okay.
Okay. So first of all, why is nobody calling him out for being a misogynist? All the women were bowing at his feet at the end, wearing, they were sexual objects. The women are just there for sex. So they're being degraded to less than human. One of them is in a cage. One of the women, like, why? I know it's supposed to be like go-go dancers, isn't it? Because are they in cages or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's like, why is he allowed to get away with that? Whereas I bet if a hyper masculine heterosexual singer that they don't like, I can't think of one off the top of my head, if they did something like this, I bet people would be complaining.
Oh, yes. If it were, it would have to be a straight guy doing it, and then all women, all like cis women. Then
like Robin Thicke.
Like Robin Thicke. Did that happen?
Well, he did that song. I can't remember what it was called now, but they had the video with the topless women in it, and they were parading back and forth. What was it called? It was like the biggest song of the year when it came out. I can't remember. Do you remember? With Pharrell, what's he called?
Oh, I can't remember. Maybe someone in the chat knows.
Blurred Lines. Yeah. I mean, he's been pretty much cancelled, hasn't he, because of that and because of the video. And it's not that much different to this. You had Miley Cyrus, posing in a nude outfit, bending over as if they were having sex, on I don't know if that was the Grammys actually. So, they didn't like him doing it, but because he's seen as being, whatever he is, gender, whatever, and therefore, he's not a threat.
He's genderqueer. Also, someone in the chat says, I didn't know this, but Dom, thank you, Dom, says the song is actually about a man cheating on his wife, possibly with another man. So they would love that, of course. They would love infidelity and make a gay infidelity. Oh, even better, right? Like, so of course they're cool with this. Plus the other performer, I'm not sure what the other performer's name was, but it's a trans woman, so male to female. So then of course
is it? Oh, right.
Sexualization, because it's, as long as it's a trans woman, then it's like, we're not exploiting anyone.
Yeah, I didn't see that particular performance, but I did see another one of the same song, and he was wearing some weird big long fur coat thing which looked ridiculous, and the rap singer, I think she's a rap singer, isn't she, the other person, was hiding under that all the time, and all I could think about was how sweaty it must have been underneath Sam Smith's coat. It was like,
oh. Okay, I saw this meme. Someone shared this with me on Twitter, Nuno Roberto. This really cracked me up. This kind of gets to the heart of what I was saying. It's a fake headline from the Daily Satanic paper. It says, Satan admits he hasn't really inspired a great album since the 80s.
Yeah, it's so true. It's all been done, hasn't it? It's all been done before. Yeah, all of that.
It's all been done and much better. I just feel like it's so lazy in a way. This is the theme. The theme, I think, of this Grammys. My takeaway is that, because we're about to look at some other stuff from the Grammys, is that a lot of these entertainers, these celebrities, the whole intention now is to try and make a statement or to provoke or to be shocking, but not to be good at it. Like, they're not even worried about the quality. They're not really trying to do good style or the good music or good like outfits. They're just like, well, this is good enough because I'm just trying to make a statement. And it's really just, like, I imagine the pitch meeting for this music video, this music performance, where they're like, okay, so we're going to be Satan, right? That'll really make them angry. Okay, so what do we need? A red costume with devil horns. Like, it's just so like,
yeah. Did he
so
have a little
cheesy.
pitchfork?
Yeah, a little pitchfork. Like, I mean, the laziest. It's like, I went to the 99-cent store and was like, give me your Satan costume.
But here's another aspect to this to think about, though, and this is coming from an atheist, by the way. So, but how much of this is to make it seem what's the word? Not dangerous, basically, to make it humorous. Yeah, so it slips through.
Somebody made a great comment like that on my Twitter. They were like, actually, I think this is part of the goal, is to make it so, like, the banality of evil, right? To make it so mundane that it's like,
so when they do
really
shock us,
exactly. And there's not really a big deal with, Satan or Satanism, because I'm a believer and I do believe the way of like that path leads to nothing but destruction for yourself and
well,
others.
as an atheist, one thing that really resonated with me quite a while ago was somebody said to me, "It doesn't matter whether me as a person believes in the devil. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that there are people that do, and that there are people that do things, in that name. So it doesn't matter whether this entity exists. It's the fact that people believe it does and do things for it. Do you
Yes.
follow me? So
Yeah.
it's the people. For me, it's the people that I worry about, not necessarily the. I know all the Christians are out there are like, yeah, how can you say that? But
Well, no, I'm a Christian, and I agree. There are these people who push Satanism in culture. A lot of them, I mean, they do believe. They do,
yeah,
whether you do as an atheist or not. They do believe, and they and there's a Bible verse. I think my pastor, someone was mentioning this to recently, and so I was thinking of it again. But it was about, there's a verse in the Bible about how even the demons believe,
oh,
even the demons call out
they
Jesus
believe in
Christ's
God.
name. They believe
Yeah.
in God, and the same is
Ah.
the people who worship Satan. It's like they believe in God and they believe in Satan, and they've chosen this path. Like, so
Well, yeah. I suppose if you believe in either, you believe in the other, don't you? That's the thing. You kind of.
I can't. I think you eventually get there. I think some people just start off maybe being able to recognize the existence of evil, and
Well,
then coming
this
to
is
believe in
this is
God.
something that kind of bothers me a little bit because so my sort of I don't know how to phrase them, but the people that I'm kind of hanging with online at the moment are generally mostly Christian, and for some reason I don't know why that is, but the
Because
thing
we're
that
cool.
I think they're all trying to save my soul, but this,
Oh,
but what worries me is I sometimes think about this where I think if it's real, if everything the whole God and devil thing is real, I feel like I'm seeing evil, not in these Christian people, but I mean in the SJ world, and I don't feel like I'm seeing good.
mm.
So that worries me in myself because I think, well, if it is real, what does that mean about me that I'm seeing bad? I'm seeing evil. I'm not seeing the good stuff. Do you know what I mean?
You know
It,
what you could do just as an experiment, as an
go on,
atheist,
go on.
even though you don't believe.
Oh, here we go. What are you going to tell me to do?
I'm going to tell you, because this is an experiment like science. You
Okay.
could say a prayer. You could start to say a prayer once in a while, like, I don't believe in you, but I have seen the existence of evil.
I don't
And I
believe in
would
you, but I'm
like
going
if
to
you
talk
would
to you anyway.
and I would like if you would show me the existence of good, if you exist. Like, you could say something like that and see what happens. If you
Okay,
ever
I'll
if
try
you
it.
ever did an experiment like that, I would be very curious to see what happens, no matter the results,
Yeah,
because
because I do, because obviously I was religious when I was a child. I grew up
mm,
religious, so I kind of get, I get it. I know where it's all coming from. But I do think, if it is real, what if I don't? What if I can't see it? What does that? Sorry, we've gone on to a whole religious thing now, haven't
that's
we?
okay.
We probably
Well, the Grammys has chosen to
well,
make it about religion.
yeah,
Um, well, I don't know, I just think that's an interesting experiment to do.
yeah.
Okay, let me show you one funny thing here, Neil, that you may not have
Okay.
seen. They have all these covers of albums from the 80s on this meme. It says Satan
So is that
admits he
Iron
has it.
Maiden? Is it? I can't see
Yeah.
the other one.
And so these are supposedly good albums inspired by Satan. Look in the
Okay.
bottom right corner. There's New Kids on the Block.
Wow, they were so famous for being Satanists, weren't they? What did they do to do with Satan?
I thought that was just a funny Easter egg, like a funny joke. But then someone's told me, no, there was a lot of satanic panic about them. And I
Oh,
didn't,
really?
not where I was at. Nobody was including them in that. Like,
Ah.
but uh man, New Kids, that just cracks me up. So there's one other thing. No, there's two other things I want to show you from the Grammys. Now I'm excited that some of this may be a surprise
Okay.
for you. One of the other just fails, I think, is Madonna.
Oh God.
Um,
I kind of know what's coming. Just oh
she has had so much work done, and she really makes me think of, like, there's no better illustration in popular culture right now of someone who is at war with reality. Her
Mhm.
entire Instagram feed, everything are these completely, first of all, her face, everything is manufactured in plastic, but then on top of that, she does all these filters and lighting, and so it's even faked beyond what it is in real life. And she's trying desperately to present as this sexy, alluring, like a sex symbol in her 60s. And I think it's sad and gross.
Well,
But
do you remember a year ago when she'd had, oh my God.
sorry,
Oh.
yeah, I surprised you. Do you see this tweet from Lauren
Oh.
Chen? What is happening to Madonna? This is a picture of her from last night with these big filled cheeks, and I think accurately compared her to Jigsaw.
Do you know who she looks like now? Faye Dunaway. Because Faye Dunaway's done exactly the same thing to her face. And it's that swollen. Oh, it's
Swollen
horrible.
look.
Yeah.
It's so
Oh.
alien-like. It just doesn't. It's to this place where I think if this is what's being held up as the ideal for women in our late ages, like, I don't think this is it. I think this misses the mark entirely. It's trying to be something you're not. It's trying to war with reality. Like,
And it's the hair, the girlish hairstyle. Like
yeah.
that's something a child and it's if you bumped into her in a dark alleyway, you would think she was some kind of a witch, wouldn't you? You really would.
You would. There was another picture of her. Let me see if I can share this one. This one's not online, so I think I have to do this window. So there's this parody account on Twitter who Dr. Jebra Falche. Now it's not a real account, it's satire. But she shared this very real photo of Madonna that Madonna was showing off. And here it is. So she says life goals to look like Madonna at age 64. So she's joking, she's satire. But this
Oh,
picture,
my.
I think, again, says it all. She doesn't look human anymore to
No.
me.
It's hideous. Well, last year, do you remember when she'd had whatever they have done to what you call the butt? She had a butt lift done or something, and then she did a load of videos where she was like under a bed with her backside
Yes.
and legs sticking out, and it was like clearly she'd had this operation done, and it was the only way anyone was ever going to see that she'd had it done. You know,
Was to do that.
was to do that, yeah, and it just looked bizarre. It looked like she was some kind of a doll with too much plastic put in her bum, you know. But yeah, she's
It's
hideous now, and it's such a shame because if she was, you know, she was never a beauty as such, but she was good looking, and
yes.
she would have aged well.
Yes. She
You
would
know,
have. But she doesn't. She's like stuck in some, I think, emotional immaturity stage where she can't grapple with
well, I've
some of the,
heard a rumor because I follow I don't know what you'd call it. Have you heard of Enti and Crazy Days and Nights?
no.
It's one of my what do they call it? One of my guilty pleasures because I'm not really into the celebrity culture, but I do like to read this website because there's lots of gossip and most of it I don't know who they are because it's minor celebrities in America that I've never heard of. But one of the things that they're saying about Madonna at the moment is that she's begging TikTok stars to help her, basically to come and do things with her to try and get some relevance back. Because I think what her thing has always been right from day one, I don't think it's ever about talent. It's never been about being a pop star, even. I think she just wants to be relevant to everybody. You know, she wants to be the cutting edge of everything. And unfortunately, she's never been the one with that talent or creativity. It's always been somebody else that she's borrowed from or got to help her, basically.
Manufactured.
Yeah. And this is just the end of it. And I think she's failed abysmally because the youngsters now, I don't think they even know what she is. You know, I
No.
don't think anybody young, you know, likes her or knows her, you know.
Well, plus I think
It-
she's pissing away her legacy. I mean, I liked her in the 80s. By the way, Night Train says, I disagree. Madonna used to be hot. I think she was attractive. Yeah, the thing is, she just, there's a point at which you can do too much of this
I think the time when
inhuman
she
plastic
looked
surgery.
at her absolute best was the Ray of Light era. which was sort of the
Mm.
late 90s, and she looked, because she'd always done too much. Like she'd either gone white blonde or she'd gone jet black hair, and it was always an extreme. Whereas the Ray of Light era was, she kind of looked really healthy.
Yeah.
And then after that, she's just slowly gone, and then really fast towards now. I mean, she's going to do the Michael Jackson thing. You know, there's going to be nothing left on her face to actually work on.
What happened to her British accent, by the way? Speaking
Did
of
she ever have one? Did she have one?
she put one on during that era. Remember, she used to
because she was with Guy Ritchie.
right, and she's just suddenly started adopting that way of speaking, which it's kind of funny, and nobody noticed when it went away. It's like,
Well, it's funny because apparently she went to the pub with Guy Ritchie and Sting. And I think she was really shocked because she sort of said, well, I can't come to the pub, you know, about how famous she was. You know, this is somewhere in the south of England somewhere. Anyway, Sting said, get over yourself, basically, you know, come. And everyone knew who she was, but not one person approached her. Because when you go to the pub in England, you just want to go to the pub. You know, you don't care who's in there, you know.
She's like, oh, stay away. And no one's there. Like,
yeah.
Stop mobbing me. I just want to say one thing about, I had a funny thought when you were saying that she got some kind of plastic surgery to her butt. I just think if you have as much money as she does and nothing to constrain these, I think, self-destructive desires to like continue with more and more plastic surgery, if you have that much money and the ability to do it, and you run out of body parts to get plastic surgery on, it's like, you know, what's after the butt? Is it like the knee? Yeah, I've got to get the knees done. The knees are too fat.
Well, this is the funny thing. She can barely walk now. You know, when she's not on camera, she can barely walk. She's crippled with arthritis. And it's like, why don't you spend your money on that? You know, well, I mean, she probably has done, to be fair, but yeah, it's all part of a show now because she's done all the dancing and basically ruined her skeletal frame. You know, she's in a bit of a mess. But she's clearly insane. And the other, have you heard the awful rumors about the children that she's adopted? There's a lot of stuff going on at the moment.
I haven't heard the rumors, but I've seen that one creepy thing I've noticed is on her Instagram, it's hard for me to tell the difference between the black boys that she's adopted and the black boys that she's dating, because they're very close in age, some of them. And that she puts these adopted black boys in a lot of feminine like dresses, like just sort of, and she wears very sexually revealing stuff around them, like as their mother. It just kind of creeps me out.
Well, the weirdest rumor on that site, again, I'm not saying any of these things are true because I don't know, but this is just my guilty pleasure, as I say, is that one of the things that she did, and it might be why her son Rocco sort of had a bit of a fallout with her for a long time. He went to live with his father in England, is that she was spying on, just said one of her sons while he was masturbating. Oh, she probably can't say that word. So yeah, but that's, whether that's true, I don't know. So I need to say, you know, in case they sue us,
Just a rumor.
It was on that website. So Crazy Days and Nights, go and
well, whether that's true or not, the Instagram I think is disturbing. Anyone can go look at it and see if you agree, but I think it's disturbing because she's dating all these young as they're adults, but young as in, you know, I don't know, 19 to 21-year-old black men, and then her young black sons are not that far apart in age, and she is openly sexual and inappropriate in photos with them. And so there's just this blurring of like, what are you doing? Like, why are you, I don't know. It's creepy. Somebody says, can we take that off the screen? Bungalow. I'm so sorry.
Kind of, she's very alien looking, isn't she?
Yeah,
she's like
I'm
an
sorry.
Alien now.
Yeah. Okay. Let me close that. Yeah. Well, I don't know if this is going to get better, Bungalow Logic, because I've got one other thing to show you that may be just as bad. I had a lot of opinions about this. I don't usually have, I guess it depends on it. Some celebrity things don't interest me at all, and others I'm like, what is this? This guy, I don't get it. I don't think he's attractive, and I think the choices he makes in style make him even less attractive. Harry Styles. at the Grammys last night. Look at this. He's wearing, if you're just listening, you can't see it. He's wearing this sort of a Freddie Mercury ripoff, this patchwork glittery jumper that is very low cut down to his midsection, and he doesn't have anything on under it, so it's just his bare chest with his just scattering of tattoos, messy tattoo choices. I think I look at that and I'm like, that's a guy who all he's missing is the Tweety bird. Like,
I made a blanket that looked like that.
you did? I mean, I would love that blanket. I don't hate this jumper. It's just,
Yeah.
here's what this jumper says to me. Let's see if I can try to articulate this better than I did on Twitter. It says, here's a man who's trying to say, oh, I want to make a statement about being non-binary, right? How am I going to do that? Bring me a feminine outfit and I'm just going to put it on and show my naked masculine bare chest, and then it'll be non-binary, right? Like, he doesn't style this jumper. He doesn't have a top under it. He doesn't wear anything that sets it off. Like, you have a bold piece like that, you need to incorporate other more plain elements with it. It really bothers me from a style and aesthetic perspective. It's plain ugly. There's no one, even if you there was a trans woman on my Twitter who was like, I disagree, I think he looks great. And I was like, really Tara, like, in your gut you look at this and you say, oh, he nailed it. And she was like, well, no, not really. It's just that he's so handsome, I think he can do whatever he wants. Okay, no, you don't think this looks good either. Like, it doesn't. It's ugly.
Well,
it's unflattering. It doesn't. Yeah.
It didn't look good when Freddie Mercury did it. Let's be fair. You know, it always looked a bit silly when he did it, didn't it? The thing, what someone said to me about this was, it's like the whole of the Grammys was like the clown show. It was like they were running a circus. It's all like one after the other. It was like, you know, he's like the what do they call it? The one with the top hat? What do they call him in the circus? I forgot. The ringmaster.
The ringmaster.
You know, and then some of the others that come along, you know, they're all weird. But somebody else also said that they think that they're made to do it, that it's some kind of humiliation ritual. And that, because do you remember a few years ago, there's the black gay guy who went in a ball gown.
Oh, yes.
That might have been to the Oscars, actually, not this.
Yes.
But I can't think of his name. You know, and when you looked at it, it's like there's no way he chose that and thought he looked good. You know, it just looks stupid.
I don't know if it's that, but he definitely doesn't look comfortable in it. And that's the other thing, is you're not pulling it off because you don't look comfortable in it. You don't look like this sparks joy in you. And I really can't imagine him wearing this at home or like to the store because it's, oh, I love this outfit, let me put on. No, he doesn't wear this at home. You know, he doesn't. It doesn't bring him joy. he just put it on to make a statement.
Comfortable either, does it? It's like, you know, if it was like, you know, a pair of pajamas, or do you call them pajamas in America?
Yeah, or,
you know, what you wear to bed and then you lounge about. Yeah, it's not even like that, is it? Because you know that's going to be riding up his backside and it's going to be tight here. You know, it's not going to be comfortable, is it?
No.
Oh, two sisters has just said, why does it not have pockets?
Yeah, no pockets. And a couple of people from the chat, I have to highlight some of these because you're right. I think you nail it. People are saying, well, here's one. Jules says Freddie and Bowie could pull this off. Nothing against Harry, but he can't. True. The difference, and somebody else in the chat, I can't find it, but somebody was saying the difference between Harry and Freddie is that Harry doesn't look comfortable, and Freddie, it looked like this is totally who he is. And
yeah,
he looks
and they
natural
were doing it when nobody else was.
Yes. And they
whereas
weren't
he's doing it when everybody's doing it, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I would say when Bowie did it, Freddie Mercury, and I think it was Two Sisters who mentioned Prince. Yeah, she says Harry, men wearing feminine clothes stopped being sexy after Prince. He ended off for everyone. Don't even try. Like, there are people who've done this before, and in a better, I think, more authentic,
going
artsy
back
way.
To Sam Smith, Boy George was doing it in 1981. You know, it was, and before that, you had that whole, or what was it called? We called it the New Romantic. I think you guys called it New Wave, I think.
New Wave, yeah.
And it was like men in makeup wearing women's blouses and all that kind of stuff. You know, everyone did it back then, you know. And sorry, go on.
Well, am I wrong, Neil? That, I mean, is it just because of our age that that we look
It
back at
could
those
be.
and say they're authentic and this is not authentic.
Well,
This is not authentic to me.
I think things do go round in a circle, don't they? So things do what's the word? It's cyclic, isn't it? You know, so I know in the 80s we were copying things from the 60s, because I remember my mum and dad saying, "Oh, you know, we did that in the 60s," you know, that kind of thing. Amy Winehouse had the Beehive, you know, so people are doing things slightly different, but I do think it kind of does go around. And at the moment, they're obviously trying to go back to the 80s, I think. So they're trying to bring back an 80s vibe, which is garish colours, and you're probably going to see massive oversized sweaters soon. You know, you watch, you know, with really ridiculous colours on there. But yeah, it just looks wrong on him. It doesn't look right on him at all, because he doesn't have the personality for that.
No, he doesn't have it. It doesn't. It just does. Like I said, it just doesn't feel authentic. It feels like he
Yeah, and
really is
Bowie.
trying too hard about making. He's
Yeah.
trying way too hard to make a statement, but he's not trying hard at all to make it look good or to wear something that makes
Yeah.
him feel good or makes him feel comfortable or expressive. It's not
Yeah.
even artistic. Like I said to try and clarify when I posted about this, it's like, it's not that I don't think a man could pull this off. I do think a man could pull this off. Not like this. Like, it's just too lazy in the effort, you know? Like, give me one non-binary piece and I'll just wear it bare-chested and ugly with no styling.
Well,
And
I'm surprised he actually went for that and not a dress, because he's done that before, hasn't he? He's worn a dress before in the past.
yes. And do you think he wears the dresses at home?
Well,
think
he
so.
won't back at home in Cheshire, I can tell you that for certain. Whether he does in LA or wherever he might live now, I don't know.
Let me show you something. I was just looking for this. I feel like you're talking about things going in cycles. You know what would be truly avant-garde, daring, original would be if he or some of these celebrities who are so obsessed with shocking us and doing something that hasn't been done, when they're all just like recycling.
I know what you're going to say.
I would love for them to go back to something traditional. Like,
Yeah.
this is dapper. If you were to see this, it's like something old has become new again. Like,
me and my friend, she works in a school still, and we talk about, sorry anyone, and I'm going to offend loads of people now because I know you guys do it in America as well, but the latest thing now is for children's names to be bizarre. They almost always start with K. So Kai, Kaiser, Kumar, you know, it's like everyone's a K name. And what we say is like, you know, they all want to be different, but then they all end up being the same because they all end up with the same name, like Kai or whatever it is. And it's like, you know, if you really wanted to be different, call your child John. You know, there's going to be one John in the entire school.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
Or Neil. Call your child Neil. I can guarantee there won't be any other children called Neil anywhere.
Or, you know, Beatrice.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. Beatrice is probably some of those florally names, as I would call it, are back in, aren't they? You know, so I would call that a florally name.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, but they have words like, I can't think of any. There's a name Chase. That's really popular now. Whereas when I was a kid, nobody had a name like that. You know, everyone was David, Andrew, Bob. You know,
I love I just love the traditional. I like the names. I like the clothing. You know, can we get back to the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, even the 60s, 70s?
I feel drawn to the 20s for some reason, and I don't know
20s.
why. I always like what men and women wore in the 20s, but I think the 20s was it's a funny period because it was a transitional period, wasn't it? Because it was the first time you kind of had cross dressing. You know, you had women wearing trousers and, you know, dinner jackets and things that were seen to be really, you know, dodgy. So I don't know what that says about me liking the 20s, but I kind of like what poor people wore in the 20s.
Well, also, people made an effort to dress up when they went out and to look very stylish and smart in their clothing because they were going through a Great Depression and because people were trying to spark joy and you know, to put on their best when they went out. And
Do you think that that's what this is? But that's their version. That's why they're wearing clown outfits, because we're in a depression and they're trying to cheer everyone up.
Maybe, but I don't think they're pulling from the right sources. Like, we're in the 20s. Let's go back to the styles of the 20s. That would be fun. You know, this, for anybody who can't see, this is just an image of Cary Grant on the left, looking very stylish, and Mr. Johnny Cash on the right, very handsome.
Oh, of course it is. I was trying to think who that was. I could recognize the face. You know who looks like that a little bit?
Who?
Your bloke, Anthony.
My husband, Anthony. I love the way you say his name. I think he's listening while he's driving right now, because I saw him in the chat. How do you say it? Where you're from?
Well, I would say Anthony, but I'm classed as being a bit posh where I live. But the people where I live would say Anthony.
Anthony.
Anthony. You all right, Anthony?
It makes me think a little bit of Southern, which I was saying beforehand, like Southern dialect, because we shorten things too. And then weirdly we'll add extra syllables to one syllable words, but shorten the multi-syllable. Anyway, Anthony, I love it.
Yeah. So what would you'd be? Kerry. You all right, Kerry?
Yeah.
Which is hard to do.
It's hard to give that an accent. Yeah.
Yeah. Spike has got it right in the comments there. Anthony. Yeah.
So speaking of where you're from, you sent me an Instagram video of a knitter.
She's the daughter of Anita. So she's only young. I need to sort of say that first, so I don't want to appear like I'm picking on her. But she's the daughter of a lady known as, I should say, Gigi. And she only ever wears orange, and she only ever knits in orange. And so Gigi is now basically getting paid by yarn companies for producing a color orange. So if they make orange, they have to pay her because she's orange. You know, she owns
I've
orange.
Seen the orange lady, the orange knitter. Yeah. Okay.
And basically she is racist, and but she's very quiet about it, and she pretends she's lovely. And this clip is actually her daughter. So
can we play it? I wanted to, because I hadn't even thought about what you were saying here.
So just so people know, you won't necessarily hear it at the beginning, but she's talking about Harry Styles.
So she's talking about the guy we just made fun of, his outfit.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we're going to defend him now.
So he apparently made a speech. He won an award, and here, let's just play it.
Got up there and said that him winning a Grammy don't happen to people like him. What do he mean? He can't mean white people. So what does he identify as? Like, and I'm not trying to be ignorant on purpose. I really don't understand what he means by people like him. Does he like identify as like a cockatoo or something? You know, he identifies as a Cheshire cat, so it don't happen to Cheshire cats often. I really want to know what the fuck he's talking about. Because there's somebody that is on that's been on a world tour since Jesus was a boy. He's got sense enough to know better, to know that his words were not the right one. People like him. Does he think he's a Martian or something? Like, what? Sincerely, what the hell do he identify as? Because if it's just a plain old white man. Look, and let me not talk too loud. Because United Kingdom had already called me racist. God forbid they might like Harold Stylus too.
So, what I found really interesting about this, and I feel a bit sorry for her because she's young, so she, you know, and I do feel like if I ever had a conversation with her, I'd be able to run rings around her just because of my age, not for any other reason. But it's this belief that we all identify as something for a start. You know, I don't wake up in the morning, or, you know, if anyone says, like when you said, "Who are you?" You know, when I started, I didn't say I'm a white knitter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, or I'm a non-binary, blah blah blah. You know,
right.
People just don't have that initial thing. But the thing about it is also there's a belief this is what I believe. So I believe there's a belief that in America, especially, that black people in America, or certain black people in America, think that all white people are rich and have got money and literally have everything handed to them on a plate. And I think they also believe what they see on TV about English people, all living in castles, all having butlers, and having this charmed life. Now, the thing about Harry, I mean, I'm going to defend him from the sense that I think, he had every right to say what he said. I mean, I don't agree with the Grammy Awards anyway.
And just to be clear, what he said that she has a problem with is, he said people like me haven't won this award before, or something like that.
No, he said something like, I can't believe I'm here. People like me don't win these kind of things.
Okay.
Now, what he meant, so obviously she's seen it at face value, he's a rich pop star. What does he mean? Pop stars win Grammys, clearly, But what he's talking about, a lad from the north of England. Boys from the north of England don't win Grammys. I haven't got 5 on my wall. You know what I mean? So that's what I think he's talking about. He worked in a bakery. He was selling pasties, what we call pasties. He had a dead end job that was never going to go anywhere. And that's what he means. And then the point I make to her when I wrote a reply to her is, Beyonce is more privileged than he is. She's richer and has more power than Harry Styles does. Yet she would never acknowledge that. And I just found it quite weird.
I think when she looks at him, I think what she means is that all she sees is white.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's this, it's not just some black people in the States, it's some white people too. It's some people of all races. The people who've bought into the predominant religion, cultural religion right now, which is woke, which is social justice. They have bought into this falsehood that, like you said, that all black people are oppressed and, disadvantaged and poor, and that all white people are privileged and the oppressors and very wealthy, and that's just not true. But when she looks at him, she can't even imagine what he means by people like me. Like, well, where's he from?
Well, I know where he's from.
Yeah.
I know the area. And to be fair, it's a much nicer area than where I live. So he's from a place called Holmes Chapel. So anyone who, I know if Adam's in the chat, I don't know, he'll know about Holmes Chapel. There are rich people that live there, but he isn't rich himself. He comes probably from the poor side of Holmes Chapel, whereas places like where I live, it's the most deprived area in the whole country where I live, and it's like, well, I don't have any privilege. And what women like, I say women, it's usually these black women, this small group of black women that I always come across, is they seem to think that all white men especially have all of this power and wealth, but they just don't realize that it's only this top 1%. And this top 1% of people have subjugated everybody for generations in the past. It's not, they haven't just done it to black people, they've done it to white people as well. When you come to my country, and if you look at what was going on in the 1800s, it compares to slavery. In all but name, the people that were working in the factories here were slaves. And I did a bit of research on this as well, and this is interesting in that the day of an average slave on a cotton farm or on a plantation was shorter than the working hours that people had to work in the mill. Now, the other thing about it is that the people who worked in the mill had half a day off a week to go to church. Black slaves ended up, not at the beginning, but ended up having a full day off. I mean, I know this, it's all kind of pie in the sky because it's like, yeah, but one was a slave and one wasn't. But the difference being is that the slaves had everything provided for them. So they had food, they had clothing, whereas the people that worked in the factories and the mills had nothing. They had no shoes on the feet. They had to find their own food. So they were starving. They weren't even allowed to get another job. If your employer wouldn't give you a reference to get another job, you couldn't move jobs. So you had to stay working for that employer forever. So you were, in effect, a slave to that employer, just not by name. Right. Christmas Day, the whole period of Christmas, slaves in America at a certain point had time off at Christmas because the slave owners realized that if they gave them some downtime, some fun, that they would work harder the rest of the year because they had something to look forward to. But that didn't happen to the people working in the mills. They just had a day off. There's a reason why Dickens wrote Scrooge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that comes from fact. It's not just, he didn't just make that up. That was this, you know. So the assumption that white people all owned slaves and were all rich, it just doesn't exist. It just wasn't real.
On the other hand, one other difference going the other way, AH mentions, is slaves had their children sold. You know, families were
Yep.
separated. They were branded. It's
Oh
like
yeah, I'm not taking that
yeah,
away.
it's like comparing the rings of hell to me.
Yes.
The point being that it's a very simplistic way of looking at the world to think that, you know, that oppression has always been just, you know, has never touched you, people with white skin, or has never touched people. It's touched every race.
Yeah.
Every race.
Well,
It's not it's touched both genders. It's not like a gendered thing or a race thing.
Yeah.
It depends on what country you're talking about, what part of history you're talking about. My husband's reading a book right now about the potato famine in Ireland, and the conditions that the Irish were living through with the wealthy landowners from the UK, and you know, how they were basically starved. I mean, in some of the books say it shouldn't be called the famine, it should be called the genocide. I mean,
because there was enough food in Ireland to feed the people, but it was shipped over to Britain. Well, to England, I should say. So there was a potato blight, so the potatoes couldn't be eaten, but there was enough food being grown elsewhere to feed them, but they weren't allowed to have it.
Because the food they were growing, they were shipping to Britain to feed the wealthy, and they had the reason why the the potato blight affected them, from what I understand, is because that's all they were allowed to eat from the land they were grow and eat for themselves, was the potato, was the thing that was affected. And so he said then they started this thing where they were like, okay, well, we're gonna import corn and cornmeal from the United States for you, for all of you poor laborers, and you can have this corn too. But by the time it reached Ireland, it was molded and poisoned some of them, and it was, so then nobody wanted to eat the corn that was coming in from North America, and it just everything, the land that they were living on, he was saying some of these families, like entire communities, were kicked out of their homes, just, you know, dead of night kind of thing, like it's time for you to move. And they were, some of them, because it was the bitter freezing cold, they were digging these 6-foot ditches and putting their family down in the ground to try and stay warm, and then they were kicked out of those. And it just,
well, how's this for unluck? You know, my Irish family, because I do have a line that's Irish, they came over in 1850 to escape the famine. And then when the American Civil War was happening, so what era is that, in the 1860s? I think it was, wasn't it? So they were literally here 10 years. And then there was the Lancashire cotton famine, which they then suffered. And that was, I'm going to write about this, that was because of the Civil War. It's because I say we, like I was there. I was one of them. No, the cotton weavers in Manchester and Lancashire refused to work with the cotton that had been picked by slaves in America, and they said no, until they free the slaves, we will not spin this cotton anymore. And as a result, they were starved. They were literally starving. They had nothing. They were thrown out of the homes, because the homes were often provided by the mill owner. They were on the streets. They had to set up special workhouses for them. And these people starved, some to death, so that black people could be freed in America. And it's like, my ancestors were in those cotton mills. You know, I know my direct ancestors were affected by that. And it's things like that that this girl in America has no knowledge of, you know, and thinks that these white people were all horrible and that we all had wealth and we all had a slave. I mean, another thing in Britain, I don't know what the numbers are in America, but out of the entire population at that time, only 3,000 people owned a slave in Britain. And I think at the time the population was between 15 to 20 million, I think. The rest of the people couldn't have afforded a slave, even if they wanted one. Most people couldn't afford shoes, you know. So it's kind of, it's that bit of all of the history that gets missed out. And I think that that's what this girl is missing. It's like, no, you need to be taught the full story. Yes, it was horrific. Slavery is horrific, but learn what went on around it as well, and that it wasn't just whites versus blacks. You know, that isn't how it was.
And it's not the
Mm.
totality of the human experience, because slavery has existed in all over the world, in
Yeah.
all kinds of cultures. Here's the thing they miss that I think is so important, because their ideology is divisive. And so their ideology says, let's look at everything through this lens of, it's always like, she looks at Harry Styles saying, people like me don't win these awards, and all she can see is white, because her ideology is like, everything is about white and black, everything always, it's always. No, it's not always about that. Sometimes it is, but it's not always. And the thing is, suffering is universal, oppression is universal, it's a universal human experience. So is the story you shared about the people in London who said, you know what, we're not going to use this slavery cotton, we're going to boycott even if we starve. There are examples of humans doing the right thing and trying to be good all throughout history. That's also universal. It's
Dion,
it's an individual
in the comments,
thing.
He's mentioned the Barbary pirates. Well, the thing that people like this girl don't know is that the worst case of slavery in all of history was against white people. So for almost 1,500 years, black Africans, so from North Africa and people from the Middle East, basically went around all of Europe and England looking for white Europeans, and they were enslaved. There were millions of white people enslaved, and far more than in the transatlantic slave trade, far more. But the difference being, the reason why we don't know about it is because their children, the men were castrated, so they didn't have children, but the women, who were in sexual slavery mostly, if they had a child, that child was immediately taken off her and was raised as a Muslim, because it was a Muslim thing that were doing this. It was part of the Ottoman Empire. And so that child then went off to live an ordinary life as a Muslim and would never have known who his mother was. So there was no word of mouth storytelling about where this all happened. And so it's kind of all been shoved under the carpet. And the stories are horrific about this. And it's all brush. You know, there are no films about this. You know, there were in the 40s and 50s, you know, things like there's a film by Kirk Douglas, and I can't remember, they're on a galley ship. You know, that is part of that. I can't think what the name of the film is now, but that would never be made now. Or if it was, they would switch the races around. You know, and every race and every country in the world has had slaves and has been slaves. You know, I don't know any that haven't.
It's just overly simplistic to say it all boils down to this thing. And I think that's one of the big crimes of this ideology, is that it's robbing young people like her of lots of young people from just accurate knowledge about history.
Well, I've offered to talk to her. I actually said to her, look, I will talk to you about this, you know, because I think you need to listen to some white people, because you're currently stuck in an echo chamber where you're only talking to black people. You know, and it's people that aren't necessarily, they don't necessarily either know the truth because they've been told nonsense.
Well, also, she's probably, it's not black, it's woke black people. It's like,
that's the key.
She could also like talk to some non-woke black people who exist, and
they do exist. Yeah, they do exist.
AH says, sadly, some of her ideas are taught in our public school system.
That's true.
Yeah, that's what. There's one other clip I didn't tell you about, Neil, that I want to show. And this is a good segue to show it, because you're saying these ideas are taught in our public school system, and you know, I think it's a good thing finally in the past few years that there's been this pushback and this criticism of things like CRT in the classroom. CRT, which is this idea that that the world is a white supremacist culture, that everything can be viewed through that lens, that everything is this black and white thing, and that there's no question of if racism is present in a given situation. The question is how it's present, that it's always present. And so here's a celebrity. This was a bummer to see this. Here's a celebrity, Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad, who I very much appreciate his performance. I think he's a great actor.
So he's woke.
Well, he's woke, and he sounds a little clueless to me. I don't think he really knows what he's talking about, but here he is teaching this overly simplistic, erroneous worldview to children.
But for God's sakes, it's time. It's 400 fucking years that we've dealt with this.
Oh.
And our country still has not taken responsibility or accountability
For what?
for the history of the systemic racism that's in this country.
What should we do more?
Well, I mean, for one thing, critical race theory, I think, is essential to be teaching.
It depends on what you mean by that.
Well, I mean teaching how the race trade and racism is systemic in everything we've done in government, in social activities.
Yes, it has been.
I mean, it's embedded in it. But for God.
So yeah, just seeing that, he's the kind of guy, I don't know a lot about him and if he's thoroughly woke online or what have you, but just based on that clip alone, I feel like if you were to sit down and try to talk with him and ask just a few questions, you could easily
dissolve
it, because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like I doubt he could even define critical race theory.
He might not even believe it, because the thing is now, I think a lot of celebrities have to play this game, don't they, where they have to say whatever the talking points are, and if they don't, they're out.
Yes.
You know, it's the same in, I mean, bringing it back to, you know, smaller scale, but it's the same with the influencers in the knitting world. I have had one knitter who I have criticized in the past, who has contacted me privately and said, look, I do actually, you know, I support you politically, you know, politically, I am of the same persuasion as you, but, you know, she can't say it. And I think
what does she mean? What are you, politically conservative?
Yeah, because actually, to be fair, I'll have to rewind a bit. It's probably from about a year and a half ago. So before I did Block magazine, and we'd had a big row about Donald Trump and the whole rivalry thing, which we won't go over that again now. And this person who had been defending Ravelry's decision to throw out all the Trump supporters basically admitted that they were a Trump supporter. And but they had to go along with the witch hunt.
But publicly they had to go along with it.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. But I have no sympathy for this person.
Oh, you know, Brentley's here from Dangerous Frederick. Hello.
Oh, wow. I was only watching your show the other day.
He says, yes, this is all performative. These actors saying they're just repeating the lines. Bryan Cranston, why? Okay.
Well, the other one, what was it called? The guy who played Jesse, or is his real name Jesse? I forgot. He's woke as well, isn't he?
Is he?
Yeah. Or performs woke. Could be, you know.
Who's the chicken guy? I bet he's not woke.
Chicken guy. Oh, what's he called? The villain in it.
Yeah, the villain.
No, he's woke as well, isn't
he?
I'm sure, I think I'm sure I've seen something where he took part in something that was a woke video of some kind.
No.
Do you remember when they did that silly Imagine song during lockdown?
Oh yeah.
Was he part of that? I know Jesse was part of that. Gus, that's the guy. Gus, isn't it? Yeah.
Guys, somebody find out if the actor who played Gus in Breaking Bad is woke or based, or
somebody said he's woke.
No, that sucks. He looks to me like he would be based.
Well, who is anymore? Who is?
Rob Schneider? Rob Schneider is thoroughly based.
But are they? I mean, they're taken off air though, aren't they? Almost straight away. You know, it's crazy. It's like, why can't you just do your job and act? Why do I have to know what your political leanings are? You know, I don't want to know what your opinions are on anything.
Because
just act.
They're evangelists, okay? And a lot of them probably think that they're not religious, but they are. They're bigger evangelists than I am. They're woke evangelists.
I'm going to say it again, just because I want to say his name again. Anthony. So imagine Anthony is performing some of his songs. Maybe he does, I don't know. And then stopped halfway through and then did a whole, lecture.
No.
On how, because people have come to see him sing and perform. They've not come to hear, some kind of thing about his nobody gives a shit.
Nobody. That's not why they're there. They're here to hear the music.
Well, it's the same with these celebrities that do this. You're not there for your personality or for your beliefs. That nobody cares about that.
No, Anthony. If he does stop his show, he doesn't actually talk a lot during his shows, but on the occasions that he does, he tells jokes. Are
they good jokes?
No, yeah, they're kind of what he oh gosh, I forget some of the comedians he really likes that he gosh, what's that one comic? He was really big at colleges. He died young. He has like off the wall kind of one-liners. Anyway, yeah, he one of the jokes he tells is that I think it's that guy's, and it's like I have a step ladder. I never met my real ladder. Stupid.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, Mitch Hedberg. He likes Mitch Hedberg. There's a few. He likes
Oh, I've
Louis
never
C.
heard of him. I don't. Is he? I take it he's American, Mitch Hedberg. I
Yeah,
don't think I've ever heard of him.
yeah. But no, nobody's coming. You know, you like a performer on stage to mix it up with you as an audience member. I'd say when I go to see a concert or show, I want good music that's entertaining, that makes me feel good, and maybe want to dance. If it's a dance kind of music, and you do want them to talk to you and interact with you because you want to feel like you're part of it, like this tennis match. But if they talk to you, it's like stuff like that. Jokes are fine, but
Yeah,
don't
you
give
want
me a
them to say
political
Trump
lecture.
sucks.
Yeah, nobody wants that. I was at the big one in Austin. Gosh, my brain's not working today. Not South by, but the other big music fest, the one that ACL. I was at ACL a few years ago, and I can't remember who it was. It might have been Pink. I think it was Pink. And whoever it was on stage, they like stopped the performance to say something like that, like Trump sucks and this and that, and all these woke zombies, and I was like, yeah, clapping like they're
Didn't she say that you weren't allowed to listen to her music if you were a
right.
Trump supporter or something like that?
Yeah, okay, no worries. I'm not
Yeah,
listening to it.
I've had sleepless nights ever since. I can't
Yeah.
name one of her songs. I don't know any.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear it. If you can work it into the lyrics, the message of the song, whatever it is that you have to say that's important, that's the best. As long as the music still comes first, the creativity comes first, and then that's what art is. You put it
Well,
in the song, you put it in the painting, you put it, you don't.
yeah, the meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you've just triggered something that triggered me. You've just reminded me of something. Sam Smith and the big woman, what's she called? She's huge and she sings. Lizzo. I just thought it was really interesting that both of them have a song that mentions, and I can't get this, I can never say the name right. Balenciaga, is it?
Oh yeah.
You know, the fashion house that was doing dodgy things. And it's like, why are they mentioning that brand? You know,
Well, that brand, I did talk about it in a previous episode. If you guys aren't familiar, I'm not going to get into it now because this video might get taken down, but Balenciaga came under fire for some very questionable photo shoots with children and photo shoots that included stuff about children, kind of hidden as Easter eggs in the photos, and just, I think, thoroughly reprehensible. And I can't, yeah.
Don't say it.
Yeah.
We're going to that dark place that we mentioned earlier.
I always end up in a dark place. Okay. So
well, we can turn this dark place light because I know one of the things that's coming up.
Yeah.
Tiger's
hanging out. Okay, I've got a couple things here that you said you wanted to talk about, and I don't think I know about these things. So
okay, well, they're just kind of. I love hearing stories where the people have fought back, and usually in a funny way. And I think this is something that I think the British do so well. When we do it. And there's I don't know whether you know what rugby is. It's a game that it's quite a violent game. It's a bit like your American football, except more violent.
We do know some things about okay.
Yeah, they play with one of them silly balls, a funny shaped ball. And every club has their own sort of theme song, and it's usually from pop music. And this one particular club, I can't remember the name of it for the life of me at the moment, but they sing Delilah by Tom Jones. So it's a really famous song, and I'm sure you must know it. It's like, my Delilah. It's one of them where, you can imagine, Oktoberfest in Germany, smashing your beer on the table, And at the end of the song, so it's a story. It's about a man, and he's got an unfaithful wife, I think it is. And at the end, he kills her. But the thing is, it's such a happy song You know, it's one of them songs where the tune is so, and nobody really knows what it's about because you're not really listening to the story. You're just listening to the song and the chorus. You know, everyone's waiting for the chorus. So anyway, when they play these games, that is the song all the fans sing from the terraces, and
Okay.
like we that's what we do here. We sing. It's very vocal in football and rugby. And now they've passed a rule that so they banned it. You can't, because there were some woke feminists that said that it was what's the word? It was glorifying domestic violence. And so they
Wow.
banned it. But then the thing is, at the very next match, and this is why I just love them, it was almost like they were saying, you. And all of the crowd, I think even the opposite team's crowd sang it. So it was like louder than it had been the first time around, you know. So it's like, how are you going to stop these people from singing that song? Because it's not like it's not like a record that they play at half time. You know what I mean? It's not something that's done officially. It's the people in the terraces just standing there singing. You know, how are they going to stop them doing it?
Yeah. It's that whole, I love that spirit of, you know, don't tell me what to do. How dare
but
you?
I just love the fact that the opposite fans,
they were singing too.
It's like, they knew how stupid it was. And then the other story I want to talk about, which is kind of a similar thing, it it starts off being a bit weird, but it's there's a street in London in Tottenham called Black Boy Lane. And just to give you a quick background on this, is that a lot of people think that it was named after in the slavery days about a black boy, but it's not true. It was actually named after King Charles II. And a lot of places in this country have Black Boy in the name. So Black Boy Pub, Black Boy Road, Black Boy Lane, Black Boy Hill, you know, all sorts of things. And it's named after King Charles because when he was young, his mother called him the Black Boy because he had black hair and dark eyes. And it kind of spread out into the, you know, everybody named him that. And anyway, so the council, which is almost like a Democrat council, if you know, it's Labour but Democrat in your views on it, if you know what I mean. They wanted to change the name of it because they said it was racist, even though it's not. And this is it, yeah. So they held 3 public consultations at a cost of £180,000, which is about $200,000. And at every single one of them, the local people who live on this lane all said no. Keep it. We don't want to get rid of it. So there's 6 signs on it because it's quite a long lane. So there are 6 different signs. So they got rid of it. They renamed it, even though the people didn't want them to. And they've named it La Rose Lane, which is I can't remember his full name, but La Rose is a black poet or a black writer. And what they do when they rename something, they put it in brackets underneath, so until people remember the new name. So in 5 years they will get rid of that sign and it will just be La Rose Lane. So the first thing that happened was one of the signs was vandalized, so they spray painted over La Rose Lane, and it was like somebody had been murdered. So we had a summer of vandalized statues being pulled down and thrown into the river, and that was like, oh, you know, there was the reason for that, you know, Black Lives Matter, blah, blah, blah. But this was like the worst thing ever. You know, how dare they cross out his name? But then what they've done since is the people who live there, and I just think this is absolutely brilliant. I'm not saying all of them. I don't know how many of them have done it, but they've gone and had their own signs made that say Black Boy Lane, and they've had them put on their houses. So if you're on that street, you can actually see what the real name of the street is. Yeah. And it's like, I just, you know, you can just imagine there's probably, and it'd probably be a white person, you know, there'll be a white person at that council that's like, oh, we can't have that place called. And the funny thing is about this area, it's in Tottenham in London. And if anybody knows Tottenham, the vast majority of people on that street will be black. They don't want it changed. You know, black people aren't saying that Black Boy Lane is racist. You know, it'll be
it's
some
a lot of
white
people,
councillor.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes, this is another part of the social justice ideology, the woke ideology, that I think is just so offensive and so obvious, is that they don't have any respect for the opinions of the groups that they claim to speak for.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, but we know what's good for you.
You're stupid. You're silly. You're
yes.
What is it? You've been oppressed all your life. You've never even had an education.
Yes.
You know, it's racism, isn't it?
It's such racism. Racist. I saw a video from last night. If you guys are fans of Eric July, which I am, there was a bit of a drama video last night that was actually very entertaining. he had a caller on his show, this white guy who had been hatefully, tweeting at him and accusing him of racism towards black people and bigotry. It's like, what are you
He's
talking
black.
about? He's black, and he just did a very successful comic book about
Yeah.
a black superhero, completely outside of the mainstream. And anyway, he brought this guy on, and what was so funny, and he just Eric July, if you haven't seen this video, he just tore this guy apart, like pointed out all of his inaccuracies. But one of the things he was pointing out, he was like, wait a minute. So you're a white man who's not autistic, who's in my comments and in my video stream speaking for black people to a black person, speaking for women when you're not a woman, and speaking for autistic people when you're not autistic. And my autistic fans were like, what are you talking about? You don't speak for us.
Breaking all their rules as well.
Yeah,
that's their rules.
That's what they do. They speak for groups. They're basically like, we know better than you. We know better than you. And that guy, his whole attitude towards Eric July was, well, you may be, it was sort of like, he's like, you may be black and I may be white, but I know better for what's good for black people. What?
The thing, I really like that Eric July guy, and he's doing something that I've been criticizing. Well, not what he's doing, but Marvel and DC, what they're doing at the moment is they're changing all the existing superheroes into black versions or gay versions or trans versions. So you've now got the Black Wonder Woman, although to be fair, she was around in the 70s, but you've got a black Superman, a black Batman, you've got a black Green Lantern, everyone, rather than creating the new characters, just create brand new
and
characters.
That's what Eric July is saying, is he created,
and that's what he's done.
Yes, an original
and
character.
It's great. It's absolutely brilliant. And I haven't bought it because I couldn't afford it, because this privileged rich white man couldn't afford to buy his comic. So but I have seen it. Someone sent me some screenshots of it, and it's good. It's good.
Yes.
It's a good comic.
Excuse me, I'm going to put this up. This is a great point about Eric July that I saw. This guy, Kevin Griveau on Twitter, says, here's what people are really missing about Eric July. Behind Stan Lee, Bob Kane, the Image founders, Robert Kirkman and Mark Miller, he's among the most successful comic book creators in history. He generated $3.7 million
with one
comic book on his first outing with one book. There should be zero scorn. And it's an original black character. Yes. And this is what people want.
Everything.
Yeah. Something new and original. And we're tired of you recycling, taking old things and, just making all of the characters black or making all the characters. By the way, it's one of the things he said in a stream that was great. He was like, you think black people just want your sloppy seconds of old characters? And just like, we deserve original characters.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've always thought, and I just find this bizarre, is that, and this is generalizing. I'm not talking about all black people. I'm talking about this, core of black people, is that they want white people to write these things for them. It's like, no, you go and create your characters. You write your films. You write your books. White people do not necessarily know the black experience in any scenario of any film or book that you might write. So Harry Potter, for example, the writer was white. She's not going to write a book that's all black wizards because she doesn't know what that would be, what she can't. So it's like, you as a black person, go and write that story. Don't expect someone else to do it for you. So Eric July is exactly doing what I would say people should do.
He's a culture creator. He's a creator.
And most of his characters are black in the comic, and that's good. That's great. And the thing is, they've got an authentic. Oh God, I'm using SJ double words now, Anna. Authentic voice.
But that's what they claim they want, but they don't. See, the other thing is that he. Oh God, I lost my thought just that quickly.
Oh no,
where did it go? Oh well. Somebody in the chat says Eric July invested the profits right back in the company. Yeah, he's a smart businessman too, and he's a self-made man. And he did
I saw
this
something the other
system.
day where he said that he's made a real gamble, hasn't he? A financial gamble with something that he felt he had to do, but I don't know what that was. So I'm assuming he's creating maybe another line of comics or something. I'm not sure.
It reminded me of this meme. How to be a successful TV producer in 2023. Find an old successful show. Make everyone in it gay.
Scooby-Doo. We've got to talk about Scooby-Doo. Oh my God.
Make everyone in it.
Scooby-Doo. Where did Scooby-Doo go?
Yeah.
He's not even in it.
make everyone in it gay, and collect 100 million from Netflix.
Oh,
That's yeah. The Scooby Doo is
have you watched it?
I watched a little bit of it because I commented on it. I can't remember what show, but we talked a little bit about it. Oh, it might have been Nina and Fanny and I talked about it. It's terrible.
Oh,
It's absolutely
sad.
terrible. It's
Velma, that's it. Yeah, Velma.
Velma, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
There's no Scooby Doo. It's
Mm.
they race swap, they sexuality swap, they make the kids younger than they were in the original, and then they have a
Ah.
lot of sexual content and discussions and just I think the funniest thing is if you read through the comments on Mindy Kaling, who is the creator and the voice actor for Melba, and if you read through the comments every time she talks about Velma, it's not just anti-woke people who are saying this is bad. There are
Ah.
legitimately a lot of the comments in there, half the comments probably are people who are like, I love you, girl, but this show sucks. Like, this is the worst.
Yeah, so they haven't even done it well. Yeah, you know,
No.
if that would be the redeeming thing, wouldn't it? If it had been written well or performed well. But what was their reasoning for taking Scooby-Doo out of it? Was it something because it was cruel to dogs or something? What was that about?
I think it was just so they could focus on the sexuality of Velma and her friends and what would a dog have to see. The dog made it silly and made it for kids. They had to get rid of the dog because it's not silly.
Right.
It's not for kids anymore. It's like
Right.
they try to pretend like it is. But
Oh,
these
if you've ever
topics are not.
seen Adult Swim, there's a cartoon, an animation called The Venture Brothers. And if you
Yes.
want to see a great sort of parody of Scooby-Doo, see the one that's in there. It's absolutely brilliant. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are drug addicts. And Shaggy thinks that the dog can talk just because he's a drug addict. Nobody else can hear the dog talking. And he's a really violent dog as well. Really violent. But he's brilliant if you've never seen it.
I haven't seen that. I know the Venture Brothers are very good. Yarn Witch says, my lesbian mom hates the Velma show. Just saying. That's what I mean. Their target audience, they're trying to like target all these different identity groups as if you can market to a group based on identity. But anyway, they're trying to do that. And the group and the people in these groups are like, yo, I don't like this. Even the ones who are like, I'm your fan and I hate this.
Oh, well, the bit that got me was how they portray Fred. So Fred is the only white character now, the blonde guy. And so now he's like uber rich and he's stupid, you know, and it's like the only main white character they've made into a stupid, you know, weird creature, you know. And is Daphne gay in it as well?
I think so. I think she's like what is it? What they call poly or open to everyone and
so a paedophile, basically. Because people who are poly or pansexual, I just think that's an excuse because it's like basically they'll sleep with anything with a personality. Well, you know, your dog's got personality.
Oh, we're gonna get some angry letters from polyamorous now.
Well, send them to me. I'll take them on. I don't care.
Oh my goodness, Surly Unicorn says Velma is more disliked than Scrappy Doo. That's impressive.
Yeah, you see now we all miss Scrappy Doo, don't we?
Wow, Neil says Mugalo Logic.
Oh, what have I said? What have I done?
Okay, I have one other thing. Since we're getting into the darkness and the different types of sexual identities that are being pushed. There's a Twitter account called Trini Tunes. And basically the way I think of this account is they're sort of like libs of TikTok, except what they're doing is archiving all of the most deranged videos and photos from people who claim to be trans women. I say claim to be because I don't think a lot of these people have gender dysphoria. I think a lot of them are autogynephiliacs and fetishists and just the most mentally ill people that I've ever seen. And this one, okay, I'm going to do a warning because there's some people may not want to see this. This is just one taste of what's on this channel, by the way. I think it's great somebody's archiving all this. It's some of the most disturbing content on Twitter, in my opinion. And there's lots of it. I mean, this person has no shortage of material. And so this is one not uncommon. to see a lot of these aged, elderly men dressing as not just women unconvincingly, but dressing as and let me put it this, dressing as a lot of them are dressing as women in that autogonophilic way where they're taking videos and stuff of themselves, like they're getting off on what they're wearing. It's clearly a fetish. It's not like,
Yeah.
oh, I have gender dysphoria and I've always felt like I'm a woman. No, they're sexually aroused by doing this and showing it to people. And then there are a lot of them who are not just dressing like women, they're dressing like toddlers and baby girls. The account points out that you don't see a lot of them dressing as baby boys. It's clearly a fetish about little girls. And anyway, if you don't want to see this, I'm just going to show you because I think I saw this and I was like, I think we should reopen the asylums in America. It was a bad idea to close them. We've reached this place where we're like, oh no, your mental illness is fine. It's totes normal.
We could call them like, daycare centers, for children.
Yeah.
And then they'd happily go there.
They're happy to go there. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we're going to watch this very short clip. I think it's only a few seconds of this mentally deranged person.
Yeah, look away now.
And they're proud of this stuff. They videotape it and put it online because this is just their identity now, right?
Hello, everybody. This is Sissy Little Girl Pansy. And I wanted to tell everybody the kind of diapers that I wear all the time. I am so glad that I am in diapers, and I am so glad that I am a little sissy baby girl.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Okay. That's enough.
It's the talking like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
child do you know that talks like that?
He likes showing off the diapers and mentioning the diapers many times. Clearly some kind of diaper fetish. Again, if you are on Twitter and you can stomach this stuff, I would say I think this account is great to follow just because it's archiving the madness and it really highlights that, if you see one or two of these things and you're like, oh, it's not that big of a problem, but then you're seeing just how many of these mentally disturbed people are out there and they're hiding in this ideology. It's like this ideology, social justice, oh, anything goes, and this is your sexuality, and that's your identity, and you're oppressed, and so put it out there.
I've heard of this before, though, and the first time I ever heard of this was in the very early 90s, and I'm going. So this is anecdotal, what I'm going to tell you now, but I had a friend that had a friend who was like a music producer, and he produced one of Boy George's songs back in the early 90s, and Boy George took him to a nightclub in London, and it was a bit of a fetish club, and I think he wanted to shock this guy, and this guy was straight, and I think Boy George fancied him, I think, so there was kind of a bit of a thing going on, and there was a politician, and I've never been able to find out who this politician was, so obviously it's a 90s male politician, and he was in a cage wearing a diaper with nothing else on apart from this diaper. And the idea behind it is that, or at the time, this is what I believed at the time, was that the more powerful somebody was in their real life, the more submissive they can be sexually. And it's almost like the other way. The less power somebody has in their real life, the more dominant they are sexually. And that is like at the absolute end of it. Like you can imagine Boris Johnson doing something like that, because he wants to, not that he's in power now, but when he was in power, and then they just have somebody who wipes them and all that, it's like, but this guy is kind of different. I don't know. It's kind of, there's something, it's the fact that he wants people to see him.
Oh yeah. This guy doesn't have power in his real life. He's not some powerful CEO who's doing this in his free time. This is just absolute, I don't know, like degeneracy. And somebody had it might have been Brentley, said what happened to him as a kid. I think a lot of this stuff is coming from childhood trauma and unresolved issues. But where society plays a role is that, unlike just a few decades ago, where we all collectively as a society, the majority of people would look at this and say, you have a mental health problem, let's get you some help. Now we live in a culture with the predominant cultural belief system says, don't mock this, don't call it wrong, don't make a value judgment. This is just an expression of sexual identity, and he feels comfortable enough in this current climate to videotape this and put it out. And there's tons of these guys who feel comfortable enough now. One of them does these videos in the workplace at his desk, like, and they feel comfortable because it's like, how can you criticize me? And so we're not helping these people. We're creating more of them.
It's a little bit like that teacher in Canada, wasn't it, with the huge breast implants? I mean, that's coming to my mind because with there's been loads of people saying that isn't a Chinese balloon; it's the woman's breast implants. Or
the
his
shop
breast implants.
teacher, yeah, the shop teacher, and that's a great example because when that story went viral, the only places reporting on it were the right-wing media, because God, that must be bad that they're reporting on. You know why sometimes it's necessary to read right-wing media is because the mainstream media, the leftist media, won't cover anything that's bad for the narrative, and so they weren't covering it. And then what happened? The school board defended that teacher who's clearly got a fetish that they enjoy working out in front of children and putting on display in front of children, those huge prosthetic breasts. And they defended that teacher. And
but the worst of it, I mean, we talked about this on the last show we did, didn't we? The worst of it was that there's even a dress policy that forbids girls from having nipples protruding in their, not even exposed, so you mustn't be able to see a bump in their tops. Whereas this woman thing, whatever, I don't know. The other thing is, have they even transitioned? Because this is, when is a trans person a trans person? Because trans surely means they are transitioning or they have transitioned. Do you know what I mean? I know I'm talking. I know
not anymore.
No, but
not anymore. They say that you don't have to.
Yeah.
That it's all in your. You could just say it. It's all a matter of how you identify, and it's not tied to whether or not you physically transition. So
I mean, I've got no problem with adults doing whatever they want to do. If you want to dress like, a woman or whatever, but I think this dressing as a child thing. Well, he's not even dressing as a real child. He's dressing as an image of what he thinks a child would look like and act like, because he's not even remotely convincing. I mean, how he's supposed to pass, I don't know, but there's something dodgy about it because he's mentally associating himself with someone who's 4 years old or whatever the age is, and that can't be good on any level for anything. There's going to be something sexual in that.
It's so gross. Does
he not have any people in his life that are going to slap him around the face and say, "Wake up"?
He's probably paying people to slap him in the face.
It's like, this is that moment, if there was I've said this before and I'll say it again, if there was a button that said "End the world now," I'd be like,
stop this planet, I want to get off.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, speaking of, this is in your neck of the woods.
Oh, Brian Cox. Oh, he's woke.
Oh no, that video doesn't go with this. This is one of those weird. Oh, I guess it does. He defended J.K. Rowling. I didn't know that. So J.K. Rowling got into a bit of heat water for talking about some of these male prisoners in the UK who are rapists, convicted rapists, who are being put into female prisons merely by saying that they're women, not changing their outward appearance at all. Here's one of them. They like, I'm sorry. You're gonna put this guy in a women's jail.
Have you seen him as a woman?
There's two. I get confused. I think I've seen this one as a woman now. Yes.
Well, all you need to know is it's him with a wig on. That's you just imagine
pretty much
him with a wig on. So pretty basically much. a wig makes a woman. That's all a woman is, a wig.
Well, and the other one, I'm forgetting his name. Maybe somebody in the chat knows. The other one that was in the news at the same time, who J.K. Rowling was also got into hot water for tweeting about, still looks this way. Still looks like this male greaser, and it's not even trying to wear a wig or anything. It's like, no, I'm a woman. So they're like, okay, I guess you are. We know you're a convicted rapist and everything, but let's just put you in with all these women.
I mean, surely now it must be at a point where it's time to have either a separate wing or a separate prison completely. So the trans people are not, because the thing is, it's never the other way around, is it? The problem is never a trans man who used to be a woman entering a man's prison. Do you know what I mean? They don't want to go into a man's prison because they'll be scared of being raped. But that isn't ever the issue. It's always the man. But I know it's because of more men are convicted of crimes than women generally, which kind of proves the point that these people are not women. If they were truly women, there would be less of them in prison because there seems to be so many of them. It's like they say these things never happen, yet there are cases that we can quote. There's at least 3 or 4 that I know of now in this country. But one of the things I think is, if there's a penis, you're a man. I don't care if there's a penis, you're a man, and I don't care what you dress like. That's the bottom line. When it comes to women's spaces and prison and changing rooms, if you've got a penis, you shouldn't be there.
You shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And
I know it's harsh, and I know it's harsh, but sad, unfortunately, that's the burden that a trans person has to bear. That shouldn't be the burden that vulnerable, perhaps, girls and women should have to bear for them. It shouldn't be. Yeah.
Especially when you're in prison. I mean, you're in confinement. You can't get away from this person.
Yeah. They'll be sharing a cell.
Right. Who's convicted for rape. And then the newspapers, which have these style guides, on what language they're supposed to use. And they all, it's the most disrespectful thing I think in the world for when they're describing a rape by one of these men, and you read the words, and then she showed her penis.
Oh, it's the Ricky Gervais.
Blah, and you're like, what?
Yeah, it's Ricky Gervais. Her penis. It's just.
Why are you even giving that respect to rapists? First of all, like, I don't know.
Well, the thing that they don't seem to understand. Well, there's this do-gooder thing that's been in the British sort of prison system way back since the 70s. Like Myra Hindley. Do you know who she is?
No.
She's dead now, but she was her and Ian Brady killed a load of children in the 60s.
Oh yes, I do know this case.
Yeah.
Yes,
and the governor in the 70s, in the early 70s of her prison, thought she shouldn't be there, so used to take her out for days out walking around the park. People didn't know who she was. And it's like, and she ended up having an affair with a guard who then tried to break her out of prison. It's a whole story going on. But there's this sort of belief that some people can be rehabilitated in some way. And perhaps some can, but I think the majority can't. Or maybe they shouldn't even try to rehabilitate them. Because it's almost like people are put into prison as if it's like... going into detox to get over being an alcoholic or a drug addict. No, these are people that have either murdered or killed, same thing, murdered or raped or done something violent.
Right.
We're not talking about shoplifters necessarily. We're talking about people that are actually dangerous. And we shouldn't be bothering about their feelings about what gender you call them or what pronoun you use them. They shouldn't even be allowed to have the clothing they want to wear. They should be given a prison uniform, and that's what they wear, whatever that may be. I'd be really harsh. I'd be like, if you want to be fed, you have to work for it. You don't get fed unless obviously that's why I'm not a prison governor.
I agree with you. I'm one of those people who, when I was a leftist, I went from being a person who I was the state death penalty and state anti-death penalty abolition coordinator or death penalty abolition coordinator for North Carolina for Amnesty International for a short time when I was in college. Organized protests when there was an execution, was very much opposed to the death penalty and to harsh prison sentences in general. A lot of it, I did think through some of it, but I was only looking at things that were in my echo chamber, and I wasn't looking at the other side of the argument. And I've changed a lot since then. And I'm someone who thinks, no, like the sentences are not harsh enough. The purpose of prison is not just for society to punish the offense like rape or murder. It's also to protect the population at large from this happening again. And this whole
that should be the first thing it's for. Before anything else, it should be protection of the public.
Yes.
Before anything else.
Protection of the public. And we've gotten far too lenient, and and I think the UK is probably a little more lenient sometimes than the US. It depends on what part of the US we're talking about, but
Yeah,
Canada
very
is
much
certainly
so.
very lenient.
Well, our prison guards now have to address prisoners in a certain way. They're not allowed to, years ago it would have been by the last name or by the number. Now I think they have to call them Mr. whatever their last name is. They have to be respectful at all times, and it's like, yeah, because they're really going to learn from that.
Right.
That is going to make them see the error of their ways. I don't know. It just drives me crazy that the wrong people seem to have got power over some of the most dangerous people that are on the planet,
Yeah.
and the wrong people are in charge of that.
The one of the worst examples of this leniency I ever heard. Oh gosh, we are going to talk about something dark now because I'm going to tell you about this.
Oh, we always get there. Go on.
Okay, let me look up his name. I haven't looked at it in a while.
Oh, somebody just said in the comments, are these prisons or country clubs? Yeah, in the UK, I know people always say this and they say, oh, he's not really like that, but it is. They have TVs in their cells. It's like, my life, right? I pretty much sit in front of the TV knitting. If I was sent to prison, as long as I could knit and I had my TV, it would be just like living at home. I'd be quite happy.
This guy, sorry, I just found it. Okay, I'm not going to give you all the gruesome details, but do you remember? Okay, in 2008 in Canada, it's called the Greyhound Bus Massacre or a beheading.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And it was this guy who got on the bus and just severely mentally disturbed, took out a knife and beheaded a fellow passenger and started coming after the other passengers. They pulled over, he ended up mutilating the corpse in other ways, and it just severely disturbed. Okay, so Canada put him in a mental hospital instead of prison, first of all. After a year or two, they started giving him visits outside, much like this example you were saying, where they're like, oh, well, it would help him if he goes out into society, They released him after 9 years, I think it was, that he spent in the mental hospital. They not only released him back into the public, he doesn't have to report to them. He doesn't have to show that he's still taking his meds. He is a free man, free and clear. And they gave him a new identity. They also provided him with a new name and stuff, so he would be protected from anyone knowing who he is. If he happens to move next door to them or something. That's one of the worst, most egregious examples I've ever heard of.
That I've only heard this week on trigonometry. The trigonometry guys. They interviewed a lady, and now I can't remember her name because I was only glancing through it. And she told the story of someone that has been tagged, electronically tagged, so the police or whoever it is knows where they are at all times, for saying something that is legal but hurtful.
What? In the UK?
So, yeah, in the UK. So legal but hurtful. I don't know any more details, but it was on trigonometry. And she had just the comparison of that guy that you're talking about, and then this, who did something legal. So they now are going to watch that person, whereas they're going to let him go and live wherever, and nobody's going to be monitoring him.
Yeah.
You're
well now. Yeah.
There's no words, is there? There's just no words.
Neil, I don't know why we always get on these very dark topics when you're here. I think here it is. You're so joyful. I can talk about something dark with you. And then
it's a bit like Delilah. It's the song Delilah. It's about murdering someone, but it's so happy.
Yeah, we can turn it around. We can go to a dark place and turn it around. I know you can. Some people would probably leave them like, oh, never going on that show again.
But I just keep coming back.
Oh, man. I really love having you on.
I love coming on. Thank you for having me. And I want to invite you back onto mine as well. So because we haven't done a proper interview on mine. So I want to. Oh, I had an idea actually. I mean, you should say this off air, but I think more people should do a part 1 and part 2, where you do your podcast on one person's show and then you do part 2 on somebody else's show.
Oh, I like that.
To kind of get the audiences moving around a little bit. I don't know whether it'd work.
You should be on Dangerous Rhetoric. They were hanging out.
Yeah,
here
is that
today.
Brentley, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll come on. Invite me. I'll come on. That's if you don't mind going to the dark places.
They will go there. They are very open
really?
to talking about anything. Yeah, and they're very smart and they know a lot about
I think
psychopathy.
they'll show me up. I think I'm always worried about being exposed as a fraud because I'm not really Socrates. You know what I mean?
You're not.
I'm not a philosopher.
I'm not a philosopher either. It's fine. I just want to put this chat up because
it's Anthony.
This is Anthony. Earlier when we were talking about Madonna, he has a good recommendation, which I fully
Goldfrapp,
support.
she's great. Absolutely
Goldfrapp.
Great. Yeah.
Yep. He says Alison Goldfrapp is all the things that Madonna and Lady Gaga and Lana Del Rey want to be, and she did it before them, and she hates the celebrity and she avoids it.
She did a really great remix of Depeche Mode, Halo. So if you like Depeche Mode, she is still Dave Garn singing it, so it's still their song, but she does the backing vocals on it, and it is beautiful. It's one of my favorite all-time songs. So it's Depeche Mode, but her interpretation,
her version of it. I don't know.
Yeah,
if I
although
know
it is them. So she's just changed it, and it's very different to the original.
No.
Oh, look at that thrifty chickadee. Neil is my favorite person to watch on any show. Oh,
he's always entertaining. That's true. Intelligent, witty, and he knits the complete package.
Wow. Where do you live? I'll come and live with you.
I love it. That's how I feel. Okay, Bungalow Logic is asking before we end the show. Would you leave us with some hopeful words?
We're all gonna die. Hopeful words about what? The Chinese balloon is no longer in the sky.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
No, I think they've shot it down, so that's hopeful.
I just could not care about the balloon. I don't know why.
I know. I think that was just. I think it was just a distraction thing to get people thinking of something else, because I keep looking at the news in the UK at the moment, and there's no real news about anything at the moment. It's all nonsense stuff, and I do think it's a distraction.
I will leave us on a hopeful note. I have something. Speaking of distractions, because when you're saying that and you're saying it's distraction, I'm thinking about like what's more important. What's more important? The economy, people's standard of living. If people are able to afford the same things for their family that they were a few years ago or not. And in the US, we're not. It's the economy's crap. But here's something hopeful. I meet more and more people. Maybe it's just where I live in my part of Texas, but I meet more and more people every day who are doing things like homesteading, or at the very least now raising chickens or goats. And I just talked to my friend yesterday who, because at some point I would like to get chickens. So she has 15 chickens now. And she said, even in the winter, they're producing like 9 to 13 eggs a day. That's good. And at a time when I don't know about where you're at, but they're telling us you can only buy 2 cartons of eggs at a time. And, they become very expensive.
Not got quite to that point, but you can hardly buy any. There's hardly any on the shelves. And what are there? So where it used to cost about £2, so what's that? I don't know. $2.20 maybe for a carton of say 10 or 12 eggs.
How many shekels is that?
Oh yeah, I've got to tell you about the shekels thing. I don't know if anyone saw. Keri did a show the other day, and I did one of them donation things, whatever they call it, and it was exactly like being at the pump when you put in petrol in the car. So you have like a little slidey thing to say how much money you want to put in, and I wanted to put £5 in just to round it up, and I couldn't get it on 5, so I ended up giving you £4.49.
Yeah, there's like a weird slider. I've done the same thing too, based on how many words. Yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt you though. How the eggs are how much there?
Yeah, so they've more than doubled. So now for a packet of eggs, it's like £4.20, £4.50, which is unheard of. But I do think they're going to be off the shelves very soon. But there's an English egg producer I keep seeing his video going round on Instagram. And he's saying that the issue isn't with egg production in this country. He's saying the issue is with the supermarkets that are not paying the egg producers. So they're charging the consumer a huge amount for these eggs, but they're not passing that on to the egg producers. So the egg producers are kind of holding it back as a bit of a you know, a little bit of a, what do you call it, like a strike almost, saying, you know, unless you pay us the going rate for our eggs, then you're not going to get them. So he stood there with a whole load of eggs behind him, saying, you know, unless something happens, they're going to, you know, somebody paid $7.79 for 18 eggs. Wow.
Wow. Okay. The thrifty.
So what's that? Is that about £6.50? Is it? I think in shekels.
Shekels?
Holy crap! It's getting worse. Look at Australia. Oof.
$8 or $9 for a dozen in Western Washington.
It's not the same as American dollars, so is it? There's quite a difference. So what? I bet is that
So
about $6 or $7? Would it be?
Yeah,
in American?
6 or 7 pounds for $8 or $9.
Wow.
Well, here at HEB in Houston, a dozen jumbo for $3.99. That's not bad compared to all these other prices. Look at this, $8.69 for an 18-pack in Colorado. You know what I bought the other day? A package of quail eggs. I don't know why. I just felt like, and I haven't eaten them before. I've got to make.
Do you eat them with the shell on? Because they're so tiny, aren't they? They're about that big. How would you eat them?
I'm gonna go look up a recipe and make them. I don't know if you just scramble them with a little spoon, like crack them in a little tiny bowl.
Well, you might be better getting an ostrich egg.
Oh yeah,
because at least then it'll feed a family.
Yeah. You guys, thanks for hanging out with me and Neil today. If you want to find out more about Neil, you can visit his channel here on YouTube, Blocked Magazine.
Yes, and I'll just say, I've just done issue 7. It's just been released. And if you're not a knitter, this is probably the best issue to read because it's more, there's no knitting patterns in this particular issue, and it's more things that are going to resonate with you as well. It's not just about knitting. So there's lots of things about what's going on in the woke world in there. And
I'm just scrolling up to find the comment with your, well, in the description of the video, you can find his channel here on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I'm looking for the links that Amy put in the chat so you can see where you can follow him on socials, but just tell people where they can find you.
Yeah. So on Instagram, I'm at Blocked Magazine. Sorry, no, I'm not. I'm at Blocked Mag. Or I'm You Knitted Kingdom with a K in there. Here we go. There it is. And everything is on my link tree. So if you put Blocked Magazine in link tree, it has all the issues. It has my YouTube channel as well. So come over there. I interview people, and we don't always talk about knitting. We do a bit of knitting talk, and then we talk about other subjects as well. And sometime soon, Keri is going to be on again. You were on, weren't you, on one of them recently?
I would love to come on.
Yeah. So it's not as political, I don't think, as Keri's. Well, you're not really political, are you? You're more.
I guess sometimes, but not really. I don't really get into like this race. This guy's running. Like, yeah. I get called political though. Your show's pretty. It's probably called political by the social justice people. They probably view it as a very political, right wing knitting show.
Yeah.
So silly.
Yeah.
So well, that's where to find Neil.
Yep.
You guys. And thanks for hanging out. I will remind you my 2 announcements from the beginning. February 12th, we added a house concert, my husband and I. And if you're in Texas and near the Georgetown, Texas area, you can email me at dprogrampod@gmail.com for the ticket link. I'm going to be getting to those emails today if there's any that are sitting in there from the weekend. And April 15th, I'm hosting the Minds Conference, which is going to be in Austin, Texas at the Vulcan Theater. And there are going to be people like Tim Cass and Ian Crossland and Jack Posobiec, Peter Boghosi in there. And there's also going to be musical performances and comedy. Hope you can come out. I'm writing some roasts for people. I'm trying to figure out how to roast people in my introduction. So it'll just be dad jokes. That's what it'll be.
I've never understood that. It's very American.
It's roasting. Yeah.
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 If I did it, I'd just offend everybody. You know, everyone would be crying at the end of it.
Yeah, I'm afraid I might end up doing that. It's a fine line with a roast, right? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I try to be like not too roasty. We'll see. But thank you guys. Oh, Brentley, you're here. We talked about you doing something with Neil at some point. I don't know if you were here for that, but I think you guys would have.
Yeah, I'm always available, Brentley. I come to the opening of an envelope, so I'll come to anything.
Bye, Neil. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you for having me.
Your night. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to today's sponsor, the Church on the Square of Georgetown, Texas, which happens to be my church. My church is no longer allowed to advertise on Facebook, which is unfortunate because that's how I and a lot of other church members originally found them. They've been told that they violate community standards There's no details there of what that means, but you guys know the score. Anyway, since they're not allowed to advertise, I'm here to give them a plug. You can find them online at thechurchonthesquare.org. You can also find videos of all the sermons and some other kinds of content on their YouTube page at Church on the Square. You can also join us. If you happen to be in the Georgetown, Texas area, we meet every Sunday at Ken's Guitars, that's Kenz, Ken's Guitars, right on the Georgetown Square. We meet outside, right on the square. Sometimes, if the weather's nice, you might find us there. You might find us outside in front of Ken's. But if you're local, I hope to see you.